professional moving experts to do the heavy lifting for you. That's why you call Two Men in a Truck, 352-289-0666. They care about your things as much as you do, and they do it fast and right. That's why you call Two Men in a Truck, 352-289-0666. Visit twomeninatruck.com and get moving.
2 Men in a Truck.
Now you've done it. Have you lost your mind? He's back. And you're listening again. A legend in his own mind. Don't believe me? Just ask him. Here's Tom Schmitz live on WOCA. The Source.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks on a Tuesday. Last night for the, what is it? They said the 51st time, 52nd time, I believe. Monday Night Football took to the airwaves. Galen Unall joins us from Life South. Galen, the reason I get so enthralled with Monday Night Football has a lot to do with when I was a kid, Monday Night Football was a must-watch, and my dad, because he understood it, would at least let me watch to halftime, sometimes the full game if he could get Mom to go away. But the reason you watched through halftime was that was the only way you got to see the highlights from the games that had happened on Sunday and everything. That's how you kept up with the NFL, was Howard Cosell would give you the 2 minutes of highlights in the middle of halftime on the Monday night game. It was really a really important viewing for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's an underrated point. What I found great about the game was fans in the stands. And
62,000 strong in Vegas.
Yeah, watching the black hole of the Raiders being back, and the passion of the fans, and I knew when you're listening to games and you have that fake crowd noise, it's one of the worst noises on the planet, fake crowd noise. As a Falcons fan, you know all about that.
100%. Got fined for putting fake crowd noise in.
Sure did. So it was great to see that stadium and watching the camera from the field just actually shaking. I was like, oh, that's great to see. So it looks like a beautiful stadium they have right there in Vegas.
Right there across from McCarran Airstrip, right there, from McCarran Airfield, right on the strip in Vegas. How can you not? I mean, that right there has got it. Somebody says, when's the next time you're going to Vegas? As soon as I can get to a Raiders game.
Yeah.
There's now another reason to go to Vegas.
Yeah. It was. I think the crowd made that. The game itself, I think those are two teams who are just trying not to lose. I don't think either one of them is going to be very good, right? When you look at those games, I think they're both kind of. I
don't think the Raiders are there. I don't think the Raiders can run the football, and if John Gruden can't run the football, he's not going to win. And I think Lamar Jackson is one pop away from being on the injured reserve list.
Sure. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt.
I mean, he's amazing to watch, but he's one good shoulder pad to the solar plexus, driven into the ground, broke ribs away from being on the sidelines.
Sure. I completely agree
but
with that.
The Raiders do win the game in overtime. The game went to overtime. And could ESPN have asked for a better opening game to bring football back? You got the Raiders. The ESPN's always loved the Oakland Raiders and now the Las Vegas Raiders. You got the new stadium. You got Lamar Jackson, who it sells tickets. It was a perfect game to kick off Monday Night Football. And by the way, let's not hide the fact that Monday Night Football has become the worst game of the week pretty much for the last 5 or 6 years. Thursday Night Football is better. Sunday Night Football is better. Monday Night Football has been.
No. Thursday night. The football itself is by far and away worse than.
But it's the first game, so everybody watches it.
If you look statistically at Thursday Night Football, it's terrible, especially if both teams are coming off of a game. It's absolutely atrocious. So it's one of those games that I think they need to look at and really remove from the calendar. But
I don't like Thursday Night Football. I don't like Thursday Night Football
terrible.
at all.
It's absolutely terrible. So Thursday Night Football, matchup-wise, is even worse than Monday Night Football. But again, you are right that Sunday Night Football and that CBS or Fox game of the week is usually a much better game.
And Monday Night Football used to have mystique and an air to it that the other football couldn't compare to.
If you remember, it was something that, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't play on Monday Night Football, but like once in like 4 years or something.
Right. It was prestigious to play on Monday Night Football.
Deal.
Yeah.
It was always the Cowboys against the Giants or the Cowboys against the Redskins.
Oh, you would have the Steelers playing the Browns in the 80s when the Browns were really good. You'd have Denver playing Kansas City. You'd have Denver playing Oakland or something like that.
Window.
Right, but you'd have Denver play. You'd have Denver playing Oakland. You'd have rivalry games. It was good football. And if you had a losing season the year before, unless you were the Dallas Cowboys or the Pittsburgh Steelers, chances were you weren't getting on Monday Night Football.
No, absolutely right. But again, I think we grew up when there was nothing else on, and that's what your dad watched.
Remember, one of the most iconic moments in the history of that television broadcast had nothing to do with the game of football.
Oh no, of course not. There's been a couple like that, but yeah.
Howard Cosell comes on. Howard Cosell comes on and says, "Beatles great. John Lennon reportedly shot and killed in his front of his Manhattan apartment earlier this afternoon."
Is terrible.
That is
a terrible Howard Cosell.
I'm horrible at it. I'm terrible at it. Terrible.
Oh,
but the
gracious.
thing is,
I'll never do that again.
But Cosell broke the news to us that John Lennon had been murdered.
Sure.
You know, that was, but they didn't cut away to go to a news break. They had one of the best newsmen at the time, even though he was a sports guy now, because he was so versed in let's be honest, Howard was smarter than everybody, and part of the reason people didn't like him is he let you know he was smarter than everybody. But they didn't have to cut away to a special report because they had a guy that could do that news broadcast right there in the booth, and so Howard Cosell did it.
Absolutely right. Now, there's been some great, Theismann, probably one of those great moments.
Brett Favre's dad dies. He comes out and has the greatest game of his career against the Oakland Raiders, by the way.
Sure.
That Brett Favre game, I think he threw like 5 touchdowns in that game. The day his dad died.
On the sideline.
Yeah. It was
all that.
Yeah.
It was great. It was very entertaining.
Just so many, and I still think the thing that you said, maybe it's one of the most underrated aspects of the game, was in the 1970s and the early 80s. The way you got all the teams, so you knew what was going on with the Kansas City Chiefs, the Seattle Seahawks, the Oakland Raiders, what you knew was going on with people out of your market. The only way you knew about that was Howard Cosell's halftime report about the day that was the day before. That was important to the nation that were football fans, because that's how you got your highlights.
But yeah, it's absolutely true. There was no internet or anything, but
and your local news covered your local team or teams that were in close proximity to you. They didn't tell you what happened in Denver. They didn't tell you what happened with the Bears. They didn't tell you what happened with the New England Patriots.
No. You don't remember the sports machine, do you?
Oh, I do remember the sports machine.
The tape.
Let's go to the tape.
And I used to watch.
Oh, yeah.
I used to watch the heck out of that. I met him. And it was one of the, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. George, what was his name? Anyway, I met him, and he was just like he was on TV. He was just that loud guy, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, but what's his name?
George Michael? No. George Michaels? George Michael?
Is that right?
I'm getting it. I don't know. You got the internet right there. You could type it in for
the George Michael Sports Machine.
Oh, I was right.
You were right. The George Michael Sports Machine.
I was thinking about faith, but got to have faith.
And you know who the other guy was? My guy, because I was a big baseball fan. Mel Ott with baseball game with This Week in Baseball.
Yeah, well, that's different sport, but there would be, and then if you got the NFL, if you somehow figured out what time the the NFL show was on. That was always great.
Oh.
So
Yeah, we thought one of the biggest reasons
NFL film.
one of the biggest reasons I sold my dad when I was like 14, 15 years old to get cable. And this was 1980, 81.
How much did you get? How much did you?
No,
how
no.
much did you get for
What,
selling
what
your
I sold
dad?
what I sold my dad on in 1980, 81
that's
to get
probably
cable
better.
because cable was expensive. You know, cable was brand new. To get cable brought in was HBO rolled out in 81 this show called something. What was the NFL thing that they did on HBO?
Still on?
Yeah, but it's not. Is it on HBO now? Or did it move to Showtime?
Yeah. I may have moved. I don't know. I haven't watched
But
it
but
in
the
years.
the
Yeah.
HBO the HBO version of NFL This Week, but
Sure,
it was
same thing, yeah.
right. NFL Films helped him and everything. That's how I sold
Sure,
my dad on
sure.
the need to buy cable. I was like, Dad, they're going to cover the Green Bay Packers every week. You don't even have to call your brother now. You can just watch HBO and keep up to date on the Packers because he was such a Packers fan. You know, being from Wisconsin and everything. So
Sure.
that's how an industrious 15-year-old, 14, 15-year-old sold his dad on making sure he had cable at the house, unlike his friends who didn't have cable. So that's why people were able to come over to his house to see the debut of MTV because he had cable.
Yeah, we had a giant satellite dish in front of
Well,
us.
there you go.
So,
Good morning. You're on with Galen and Tom.
Tom, I was inside the NFL. Lenny Dalton.
there
Oh,
we
that's
go.
right. Thank you. Hey, Kevin, thanks for the call. Hey, Galen, this is
problem.
thanks, Kevin. Galen, that's Kevin Stone. I'm going to roll out with starting Friday in the 10:30 portion of the show. Kevin Stone and myself will be rolling out a show based around and talking about the upcoming games and the lines and where we stand on who's got the best shot at covering and stuff like that. We're going to do a show all based on football and the lines. We'll do it every Friday leading into the weekend of football. So I'm looking forward to that.
You can't call it a gambling show.
Well, you
call it a
can call it a
gambling
gambling show because there's gambling's legal in Florida. So sure, why not?
Yeah.
It's a show about the sports betting lines in college and NFL football. Try to give you a little nuggets of wisdom, and here's what I suggest: whatever I tell you.
Does Kevin know anything? Because I'm not going to bet anything that you.
Well, here's how you win.
That MCYFL is
Here's how
terrible.
you win, pal.
So go ahead.
Whatever
You're
I
opposite.
say, do like George Costanza. Do the opposite, and you'll be effective.
Sure.
You know?
Well,
George Costanza
yeah,
walked up to that
and
girl and
it's
said,
just-
"Hello, my name's George. I'm unemployed and I live with my parents." She took him. He went out on a date with her. So whatever I tell you, do the exact opposite. You're going to be a winner.
Chicken salad instead of tuna salad.
There you go.
So let me ask you this: You're a gambler, like a professional gambler. You have a history of it.
I'm a degenerate
What do you
gambler. We'll go with that.
consider- What do you consider a successful? Do you go by season, or do you go by week, or do you go by day?
No.
And what's the percentage that you need to win?
About
65?
if you win 65, 68, if you win 65, 68, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 65,
All right, so
68%.
but
You're winning.
How-
You're winning better at 65, 68%.
Because I have this disagreement with a friend of mine. I look at the end of the season. And
That's how you have to
when I
look at it.
unify
You can't look week to week. You got to look at the end of the season.
He's a week to week guy. and I
No,
think
that'll drive you
that's not-
crazy. You'll pull your hair out.
Well, absolutely. I think long term betting strategically is much better, and the reason I do this is because you don't want to run out of your little side cash that you have to gamble with in week 5.
Right. If you were a week to week guy, games like Buffalo, Pittsburgh this weekend, everything should have said the Bills should have won that game easily.
Oh, I stayed away from that game for that very reason.
But but the Steelers won the football game. That's the kind of game if you go week to week and only worry about week to week results, you'll pull your hair out.
I have some rules that I go by in the NFL. One of them is week 1, I bet half of whatever my normal spend is. I bet half, right? You don't get sucked in. You don't look at a game and go, "Oh, this is an absolute lock." You don't do any of that.
There is no absolute
again,
locks, by the way.
no, but there is in college football.
In college football, but not in the pros. There is no absolute lock in the pros.
Week one, whether it's a college game or an NFL game, whatever I'm typically going to bet on a game, I've cut it in half. That's my disciplinary.
Last week was an easy game. Was an easy week for me, and I'll tell you how I know this. How you would know this.
Okay.
I bet a 9-team, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-team parlay, and never worried about losing. Because I took the Carolina Panthers over the Jets. The Jets are the worst football team in the NFL. And then I took all the favorites in directional games, but I made sure not to take Florida State. They lost their directional game, but everybody else won their directional games, and I took them to win. And so it wasn't that much, but because it was 9 teams, even if you take all the favorites that are huge favorites to get 9 teams right, you still get a pretty good payday.
Yeah, I enjoy the heck out of parlays. I think it's
I think it's an underrated way to. I think it's an underrated way to sports bet.
Correct, and again, you don't put in an obscene amount.
No, I spent $25.
You could spend 10.
Yeah, and make a very good check. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if you really want to try gambling on sports, because now that it's legal, go with a parlay, and they have some really fun ones. There's one now that Barstool has where you could bet the over for the entire week.
Where they add up all the scores and whether the NFL scores over or under. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
See, and you're entirely correct in your advice, but I go a little farther than you. I break the season down into 4 quarters, and now it's 17 games, so one of the quarters will have 5 games in it. But it really worked when it was 16 games. It's 4 games, 4 games, 4 games. I bet about half of what I would normally bet, anywhere between a quarter and a half of what I would normally bet in the first 4 weeks, because it's the feeling out period. Yes, some teams are good, some teams are bad, but it's the first 4 weeks people are getting their feet under them because veterans don't play in the preseason anymore, and that's really evident this year when veterans didn't play. So they're not, even though they say they're game ready, sometimes they're not. Then I bump it up, but then once it gets towards the end of the season where, playoffs are on the line, but people are sitting out because they've already garnered their playoffs and everything, I go back to the quarter to half bet again. At the end of the season, I go away from it because there's too many factors of coaches sitting this player or this player being sat and everything because of playoff implications or teams that are fighting for. So I literally go quarter to half, full quarter to half as how I do it throughout the season. I think it works, and it, it seems to work for me pretty good.
Again, as long as you have an idea of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish, I just go with a discoupled approach.
Do you do the full season? Do you do the full season bets like the over/under wins and stuff like that?
No, because I would lose track of what.
See, the only ones I do, and I take flyers on them, is every year I put $50 on the Falcons to make the Super Bowl just because they're my favorite team.
Oh, you mean that kind of thing, like if the wins over losses,
right?
Or whatever.
Yeah.
I've
those
done
kind,
that
yeah.
before.
And
those are hard unless you can legally place the bet.
Right.
None of your local.
Right.
Local
No.
guys
Of course,
are
no.
gonna do that.
No. But these are things that I get friends of mine that still live in Vegas to do for me, and then I do $50 on the Falcons making the NFC Championship game. And, it's $100 a year, and it's something fun for me to do. And the year they went to the playoffs and they made the Super Bowl against the Patriots, I actually had put 50-50, so I made pretty good money there. And then I'd taken a flyer and put $10 on them actually winning the Super Bowl at $1,200 to 1 to win the Super Bowl.
There you go.
We know what happened in that Super Bowl. I was counting my money in the fourth quarter, and you never count your money before the game is over.
No, you're dead on.
And I was counting my money, and we know how that works. Matter of fact, not only did I not win my money, it cost me more money as I threw my Note 5 into a block wall. When you have an OtterBox, one of those OtterBoxes, which is very nice, surrounding your phone, and you take it and you throw it like a baseball into a block wall, you know what happens?
Mm-hmm.
You buy a Note 7.
That's correct. That's exactly right.
And then
Time
it
to
catches. Then its
upgrade.
battery catches on fire.
Again, also a plus. How you be a
Remember
part
the
of
Note
civil
7?
lawsuit.
The Note 7 was the kindling phone. Remember, you keep it in your pocket long enough, it catch on
that.
fire.
I remember that. I forgot about that. Yeah. People, I had no idea that people slept with a phone underneath their pillow.
Oh yeah,
Until that
till
came
their
out.
bed's caught on fire, and you're like, what? Like my phone is my alarm clock. I do not have an alarm. My phone is my alarm clock. So I understand with the phone near you, but why under your pillow? Because now if the heat of that battery or something happens, that pillow catches on fire, that's your head catching on fire. You know, it just, common sense says, head catch on fire, not good. Put phone on nightstand near head. That be better than head catch on fire. I mean, the basic caveman should know that, right?
Correct. That's correct.
So, but it was good to get Monday Night Football back on the TV. It's not the same as with Frank Gifford, Howard Cosell, and Don Meredith, but life never is the same as what it was in our childhood. I mean, that was some of the – and they've tried to recapture that by bringing Dennis Miller in, thought he was a smart guy like Howard Cosell. Abject failure. Then what was it? The NFL, the ESPN NFL show tried to bring Rush Limbaugh in to make him, the smart guy on TV. Abject failure. There's only one.
I thought he was funny. He just said
yeah.
what people disagreed with, whether it was true or not didn't matter.
Well,
so,
and then he.
And you know who I thought was good? I thought Dennis Miller wasn't bad.
If you got his humor.
Right, but I do think Dennis Miller's fairly funny.
Right. But a lot of people didn't get his humor. Just like a lot of people hated Howard Cosell, not because of who he was, but because they thought he was talking down to them because of the language he was using. And he wasn't, at times he wasn't talking down to you. He was just that much smarter than you were.
Sure.
Howard Cosell got blamed for talking down to people when in actuality, he was just smarter than the average person. What was more iconic for Howard Cosell? And I know what you're going to say, but I'm asking the question anyway. What was more iconic, wearing the gold jacket for Monday Night Football, or his friendship and ultimate the interviewer for Muhammad Ali?
Well, I think that's an absolute no-brainer. I mean, it's Ali.
Ali, without a doubt, exactly.
Ali and Cosell were the biggest.
Without Cosell, Without Cosell, Ali doesn't come back from the Vietnam fiasco the way he did.
And without Ali,
Cosell doesn't end up being the guy he is.
Cosell's just another guy.
100%. He's just Jim Gray.
Absolutely.
Jim
That's
Gray.
correct.
Don't get me started on that
Jim
guy.
Gray.
Don't get me started on that guy.
I don't know if he's Jim Gray. I don't know if he's that.
That guy.
That guy.
Like, you know what? I haven't heard that guy speak or talk in probably 2 or 3 years, right?
Well, it's because he has cancer.
And he still aggravates me.
I think he's like dying of cancer.
He still aggravates me.
Isn't he?
He still aggravates me.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's dying of cancer or not, but he aggravates me. I know that.
All right.
Good, that guy. You know who I miss is Craig Sager. I miss that guy. His jackets.
Right.
Come on.
I think Howard Cosell's one, but number 2 on everybody's list should be Brent Musburger.
Brent Musburger, and to me, it's Howard Cosell, Brent Musburger, and then everybody else. I mean, you can say what you want about Vern Lundquist. You can say what you want about Keith Jackson.
No.
You can say what you want about
Keith
Jack.
Jackson
Great.
Keith Jackson's on the list, but he's not.
But he's not Brent Musburger or Howard Cosell.
No, but there was another guy in the booth on Monday Night Football who was fantastic.
Al Michaels.
So, Al Michaels.
Yeah, but Al
Michaels is on the Mount Rushmore.
You know why? But do you know why he's on the Mount Rushmore broadcasting?
Well, he's been in a million big games.
No. There's one reason and one reason only. Do you believe in miracles? No matter what, you always will know that's Al Michaels, and that's iconic. Hey, Galen, where's the Bloodmobile today?
Bloodmobile today, we're right back at the Central Florida College campus. We'll be there all week, so please come by, see us there or right there on the boulevard, 1607 East Silver Springs Boulevard. Call 622-3544. Give blood.
Hey, by the way, Galen Unall and Tom Schmitz, just so everybody listening, on the call for Forest Westport this Friday night, just so everybody knows.
Love it.
See you tomorrow, pal. Talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Bye, all.
We'll be right back with Carol Ann Baldwin, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin, in the garden. After this timeout, you're listening to WOCA 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
USA Radio News with Lance Pry.
Secretary of State Anthony Blinken made his first of 2 scheduled appearances before Congress this week over the deadly Afghan withdrawal. Mr. Blinken admits Americans are still left behind enemy lines in Afghanistan, and he has no idea how many.
Going back to this weekend, we had about 100 American citizens in contact with us who seek to leave Afghanistan. Those are the Americans we're working with.
Do you have an exact number?
I can't give you an exact number.
Hurricane Nicholas made landfall near Sargent Beach, Texas, Tuesday morning as a Category 1 hurricane, threatening to bring heavy rainfall and flooding to parts of Texas and Louisiana. Nearly 234,000 households in Texas have lost power. The National Hurricane Center is reporting a tornado or 2 will be possible today along the upper Texas and southwest Louisiana coast. USA Radio News.
Nielsen says more than 30 million Americans are now tuning in to Newsmax TV. It's one of the biggest media stories. Newsmax is available on all major cable systems. And if you cut the cord and don't get cable, you can still get Newsmax. Find it on your smart TVs like Samsung, LG, and more. Just go to your smart TV channel guide or download the free Newsmax app. Newsmax also streams free on Roku, Zumo, Pluto, Amazon Fire, or TiVo. And 7 million people have the Newsmax app on their smartphone. It takes seconds to download it on your phone, and there's no paywall or subscription. So watch Newsmax for breaking news, anytime, anywhere. President Trump says Newsmax is really good, and Forbes calls Newsmax a news powerhouse. Find out why tens of millions of Americans are watching Newsmax TV and going to Newsmax.com for breaking news. It's a source you can trust. Newsmax is real news for real people.
Will it be business as usual in Afghanistan?
Broadcasting from the Ocala International Airport, this is WOCA AM, W242CA FM, Ocala, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
It's time for Farm and Ranch headlines on the Southeast AgNet. I'm Tyron Spearman reporting. Crop production estimates were announced last week by U.S. Department of Agriculture. They're showing peanuts making 3,174,000 tons. That's up 3% from last year. Acreage is down 5%. Average yield 4,141, up 345 pounds from last year. On corn, 15 billion bushels. That is for grain, the second highest production on record. The forecast is 176 bushels per acre, up 3% from last year. On cotton, all cotton production is forecast at 18.5 million 480-pound bales. That's up 27% from last year. Yields are expected to average 895 pounds per harvested acre. That's up 48 pounds per acre from last year. All cotton planted at 11.2 million acres. That's down 7% from last year. On soybeans, soybean production for beans is forecast at 4.37 billion bushels. That's up 6% from last year. Yields are expected to average 50.6 bushels per harvested acre, up 0.4 of a bushel from last year. Acreage was